It is my great pleasure to welcome a first speaker, Mr. Wulf Schlachter. I would like to say one of the gurus of e-mobility in Europe. Wulf, the virtual stage is yours. Good morning. Can we hear and see each other, Wulf?
Yes, good morning.
So please tell us what it takes
to Prague and to the moderators. Thanks for joining.
Yeah, so good to have you online. Please tell us what it takes to make the e-mobility a common thing actually in Europe.
Yes, so from that point of view, we started in 2010, something like that, when the first, let's say, electric vehicles came into the market. And well, now in 2024, almost 2024, we have seen lots of movements. Well, you can see here on my first page, e-truck coming up. So this is the next big thing, and there was a long way between. So I want to show you a little bit what's happening at the moment in the market and what it takes to build ecosystems to run EVs, and also a little bit what are the pain points at the moment. So not everything is fine, but it's going in I would say on a better way than before. Well, let's start with some data, and from that point of view, I will show you also something about us, what I'm doing. I'm CEO of DXBE Management, and we are working in the industry, well, since 2007, started with IoT projects worldwide. Also, we started in smart city projects, and then we went over to EV after we got a lot of requests. Personally, myself, I was one of the founders of Ionity. So I was a ramp up and startup CTO, preparing the company, bringing it to market. And so far, the same I did for others like digital charging solutions. I was involved in some activities at Innogy in the very first beginning, as well as Engie in France and Centrica in UK, and lots others, or many more. And well, the latest project we made, I have built a CPO, a charge point operator in Saudi Arabia. Additionally, where I see some, how you say, lacks in the ecosystem of e-mobility, I started founding companies. So while filling the gaps or bringing, let's say, new opportunities into the market. So I'm also member of board of different startups worldwide. The first one was already been sold to Toyota a few weeks ago. And many more, maybe you know already, Encharge and some others on the list. So we are building, let's say, the ecosystem of EV charging end to end. That means we have big OEMs, we have big, let's say, utilities, we have fleet operators, and also retailers, which are looking for business models defined by us. And yeah, that's part of our daily job with roughly 60 people. And we also have some developers worldwide. So growing offices in New Zealand, as well as in Berlin, or even in the US. So from that point, that's what we are doing. And yeah, let's start a little bit into, well, some data, what's going on in the market. Maybe you have never heard before about Chang'an or GAC or all these wooling activities, but to be honest, these are the most selling cars worldwide. And this year, especially this BID Song model, which is number 3 here on the list, was sold much better than Tesla Model Y. So you see, as Daniel mentioned before, China is coming extremely, especially on the smaller cars, and not on the, how you say, the luxury vans or luxury class. So it's getting a little bit more down. The prices are going down, and the pressure on the European market and the US market is, well, it's increasing, but it's not too bad how it looks like. So from that point of view, I can show you some additional data. So in general, you see some European players which are coming up quite well, quite good, especially Renault, Stellantis Group, BMW, Mercedes, and also Volkswagen. overall, I would say they could reach the BYD data, and also that's, I would say, a positive effect. What you see that they are coming up from, let's say, lower levels like Mercedes last year, number 11, and now on number 6, and the same for BMW, came up from 8 to 7. So that's, I would say, the current development from that point of view, how it goes on and how the market is working. Especially Tesla has performed quite good in Europe. Maybe you have heard about that it was, especially the two models, the Model Y and Model S, was the most or best-selling cars in Europe, in specific countries like North America as well. And so I think you can even see that in some markets you will never see Tesla, or have other markets or other brands running which you have never heard before in this context. So jumping back to what is the next big trend as well, we are talking about truck electrification. You can see some data. We are talking about 3.86 billion US dollars until 2030. Especially the growth rate is something like 26% roughly. On the car side, you have trends of 40% right now, or 48%. So the BYD company has grown approximately 57, 58% last year. So it's getting up and it's getting better from that perspective for, let's say, the global markets, quite attractive offers. But as I mentioned before, there are also some topics you have to take an eye on, and especially if you're thinking about building EV charging infrastructure. So I collected some comments from my customers, and they start with, well, we can't make it on our own. What shall we do? This is a topical first question I got, I would say, at least once a week from someone who wants to join, let's say, the electric vehicle party or the electric vehicle infrastructure. The second question was, okay, we checked the hardware, we checked the software, and especially data. This is the topic we have no clue. We don't know how to handle. The next question was from topic, if you go a little bit more deep dive, oh my God, billing, accounting, and payment is coming up. So we are not used to, we don't know how it works. And additionally, talents, experience, and also investment is missing at the moment. So these are, I would say, the 4 major pain points. And I would say you can answer these questions with one topic. That means you have to partner. You have to look for, well, let's say, the ecosystem which fits best for you. So that means selecting hardware, selecting software, and also trying to build these ecosystems end to end. You can't do it on your own, so at least you need some partners in the segment. And finding these partners is, I would say, quite complex and also quite challenging, especially if you do not have, let's say, the experience in a completely new market. I had this experience as well when I started my business. So a view back in 2017, when we tried to establish a CPO for European high power charging. So we started in 2014 in a kind of a stealth mode. The official launch was roughly on the date exactly 6 years ago. And the first site was already established in Denmark in 2017. The reason why it had to go so fast was also, you could imagine that some German OEMs, which are also shareholders, like Audi and Porsche, wanted to launch the Audi e-tron and also the Porsche Taycan. So, well, we had to be a little bit faster than expected, and we reached the target. And when we had the first 50 charger parks been live in Europe in the first year, then it was something like, okay, where are the cars? And the cars are missing. So from that point, we were faster than expected. And at the end of the day, well, the OEMs had to deliver and were not able to at the very first beginning. Well, Ionity has grown across Europe, started in the Nordics as well as in Central Europe. but also growing into other activities in Southern Europe and Eastern Europe. So you see that especially building charge point management sites and systems from that point of view is quite attractive. Especially if you're working on high power chargers on the motorways, it's I would say a little bit more easier business than installing these kind of chargers in the urban space. So where you do not have the grid or even do not have the sites where you can install these kind of, let's say, high power chargers. On the next slide, I want to show you some pictures, what's going on in the market, some examples to show you what can you do and what's the next big thing. We were involved in some projects on, for example, Audi. They have built some charging hubs in Europe, or they grow with these charging hubs. So this is an example in Switzerland, built close to an expo in Zurich. And beside these buildings, you also have some activities where you can buy some food, or there's a restaurant beside, a bakery, and so on. So making these, let's say, sites more attractive than thinking about only charging. So it's a little bit more than what you know, growing with, let's say, the selling of energy. So the ecosystem around is quite attractive if you bring it to the right place where your customers can do a little, for example, have a short coffee break, or can go to a restroom, something like that. So this is quite trendy, and of course, if you are not able to provide, for example, the full grid or the full power there, then you can even work with some battery-powered cubes, like you have here these black boxes where you have the charger integrated, as well as a battery storage. And I think this is also something what you will see in the future a little bit more. So battery in combination with the photovoltaics on the roof and a fast charger. I think this is one of the trends you will see in the market. And well, some more projects are rolling out. Maybe you have seen these kind of mini supermarkets already on big charger parks, for example, at EMBW in Germany. So you can go there. It's like a little bit the McDonald's. You enter your, let's say, what you are looking for. If you want to have an ice cream even, or if you want to buy toilet paper or whatever, you can get these from, let's say, these vending machines in seconds. Additionally, what we see, the big OEMs are coming into the market, like Mercedes-Benz, which have started a new, how you say, charging hub in Mannheim in Germany, but they will grow with these charging hubs as well. The same, they have started in China, a little bit different from the model, from the look like, but also, I would say, comparable. And also in the US, there was an announcement last week, that they gonna start into this, how we say, charging business in public sites. Additionally, well, also the big brands, kind of a VIP charging launch being built by Porsche, and there it's a different model, because there you are only allowed or able to charge if you're driving a Porsche. So all others, what I've shown before, the Mercedes and also the Audi charging hubs, there you can go with a charging card and can use it even if you're driving a BMW or a Volkswagen car. So from that point, this is unique, and this is the only one which has been built in Germany this year, but more will follow for sure also on the Porsche side. Yeah, last but not least, later on we have Arjan van Dijk from E.ON EDRI, and on the panel. And from that point of view, also E.ON as a utility is pushing forward in this business. This is also kind of a concept store where you can see some vending machines in the back, and even some, how you say, places where you can sit or relax. I would say this is a little bit the future, what you are looking for within the next 10 years. So simple chargers on the motorway or in urban areas or suburban areas will not be, I would say, the future. So there's a kind of accommodation around or something around, which must be highly attractive to get the people or the EV drivers to these sites. And yeah, so a little bit on other next big things, what's in the market coming up. I already mentioned about bus and truck charging, and I want to show you also what's going on there. This is also really highly trendy at the moment, and lots of charge point operators, wherever they are in Europe, are trying to move in the business. The big oils, also the utilities, and also I think there are some pure CPOs coming up, so charge point operators which are only focusing on this business. One was already announced called Milans. This is a joint venture of the big four truck OEMs, so combined with Mercedes-Benz or Daimler, Traton Group, so Scania and MAN, as well as Volvo. So they have decided to build charger parks with megawatt chargers. So talking about 1 megawatt charging a truck. And that means shorter, let's say, waiting times, resting times as well. And well, also a little bit more, how you say, if the truck is standing too long, he's not earning money. So speeding up a little bit the speed of the charger also means, well, having the truck longer on the road, so a little bit more attractive business model will come up from that point of view as well. Yeah, some other topics where we are working also on, so talking about Hyperloop, but well, it's not that what you are looking for from the energy side. But you're talking also about autonomous transportation, which is coming up, also electric driven, and the same you have on the, let's say, vertical takeoff and landing systems, which are, I would say, coming up maybe in 2027, 28, a little bit later. But the first test flight has been done. But they also need some energy, and the energy topic, especially for drones or vertical takeoff and landing systems, will not fit, I would say, from that model what we have here right now. So it's going a little bit more into battery swapping, so exchanging batteries when the drone or the transportation or the flight taxi has been landed, and then it's a little bit faster, and that's what especially coming up on the vertical takeoff and landing side. Additionally, well, these last mile delivery topics like the Einride guys in Sweden are doing. So you will see these kind of trucking in the future for sure, from depot to depot, for example. So while having some roads which are also available for, let's say, these autonomous cars. I think this will come up maybe in 2030 or something like that, when they will be fully autonomous driving on the roads or even on some specific lanes. Last but not least, a little bit on technology, what's going on. We have seen some really big trucks here from Scania. This is a 60-ton truck for a mine in Sweden. On the left side, you have the new Mercedes E-Actros with a range of something like 500 kilometers. The same on the MAN. And then we are going a little bit down to, let's say, the last mile deliveries, the 3.5-ton trucks like the Fuso or E-Sprinter. And as you have seen here on the left as well, the Volvo, let's say, E-palette of EVs or e-trucks is also quite impressive. And there was a vote yesterday, which was published today, that the electric trucks made the choice for the best 3 trucks in the world. So there was an award given out each year, and the first time the first 3 positions were covered by electric trucks. So Volvo, also Scania and Mercedes-Benz or Daimler has won, and the 4th one was the best innovation truck. This was from that point of view MAN, which also was successful in winning an award. So you see that the combustion engines, so the dirty diesels, are going down slowly, but it happens. And while we are thinking about the growth rate in the future, and especially the business on the truck side will start in 2024. Yeah, moving back, special trucks. Maybe I've already seen some trucks like, for example, auto transporters or cooling trucks and so on, or even mining trucks, which are running autonomous. They are all running on, let's say, electric vehicles or electric motors so far. And we are talking about, well, the zero emission for long haul. I would say until 2030, we will see much more of these, let's say, long haul activities on the motorways in Europe. Yeah, truck charging, of course, a slide which is also quite new. So this charger park has been built in Norway, and the same one you can see in Sweden. So from that point of view, so it's how it looks like if you are trying to charge trucks. A little bit different to that what you see on the, let's say, on the motorways right now in Central Europe, or even in other countries like in the US. These are not existing at the moment, and you can see that these are, for example, ABB chargers with 360 kilowatt, but the speed of the chargers will go up definitely. At the moment, at least something like 400 kilowatt up to 1 megawatt, and maybe in 2030. So this is a development what you see right now from, let's say, the truck electrification in Central Europe, and even in the US, we have the same, let's say, trends and activities. Yeah, that's from my side. I hope you had some good impressions, and also joined a few pictures I shared. And so far, if you have some questions or comments, just send me an email or connect via LinkedIn. That's the easiest way. And so far, I would like to hand over to the moderators and say thanks a lot, and hopefully going to see you soon again.
Wulf, danke schön for your presentation and outlook of the mobility. There are actually there is one question that I'd like to ask you that was coming from the audience, and I have another one. So let's make it a quick Q&A session right now. There is one question coming from the audience regarding the topic of Ionity. I think that might be something that you could answer. Current public prices of the Ionity fast charging are significantly higher than equal prices of the petrol for comparable internal combustion engine cars, let's say fossil cars. In most of the European countries, how this will contribute to the adoption of the EV in Europe? And there is also, I would say, a complementary question from the same person. Can you imagine that the fossil drivers will pay significantly different prices for 1 liter of petrol depending of the brand of the car they are driving, as it is actual Ionity practice? So kind of a criticism, I think, on Ionity. Can you say a little bit about it? What do you think?
Well, I'm no longer let's say involved in the Ionity activities, but in general I can say something on these activities. What you see right now, at the moment, you see lots of, let's say, testings on dynamic pricing in the market. So there are some players which are changing the prices, I would say, hourly. And what we have seen, I think it started in 2022, something like that, in summer, and even a little bit before. There was Tesla was coming up and tested, especially in the northern part of Europe, some dynamic pricing activities. So on demand, if, for example, a ferry was coming from Norway over to Denmark, and the next charger close to, let's say, this ferry station in Denmark, you could imagine if you had 50 Tesla cars in a row waiting at the charger, well, the prices went up, and an hour later or 2 hours later, the prices went down again to a normal level. So you will see this kind of, I would say, dynamic pricing coming up. And especially at the moment, you have some markets where, let's say, energy is really cheap. On the other side, you have markets where energy is extremely high, I would say, from that perspective. And so players like Ionity or Fastnet or others, which are active in how you say, multiple markets, especially or if they are already running chargers in the Nordics or in Southern Europe, they try to, how you say, to adapt or try to, how you say, even bridge these, let's say, differences by offering some average prices. So, for example, if you go to Germany and compare the prices with France, so well, they are almost, I would say, the same, but there are other markets where it differs. And you could imagine that if you have some markets which are highly attractive, so the prices will not be the lowest from that point of view. So while you can make the largest margin, you could imagine that then it's more attractive to offer, let's say, a little bit more higher prices to other, let's say, to your candidate or to your customers. What you also see at the moment that the market is in some parts getting more professional. That means there are some players, especially on the charging or charge point operator side, which are trying to, how you say, monetize their activities, what they have done before. And that means they are going into, let's say, IPOs. So they want to go public. They want to go to, let's say, to the stock exchange and offer the let's say, the shares there. And from that point of view, you could imagine if you have some players in the back end, which are, let's say, VCs, so financial investors, they have an interest that the price of the, let's say, even the share is going up. And I would say this is maybe the answer on this complex question you raised or questions you raised. From that point of view, it depends on the market and mainly on the market. And also you can imagine there are some markets where you have to invest a little bit more because the grid is not available. So that means well, you have to doing more groundworks than you could expect or you have expected, and that means also that the prices are going up a little bit from that point of view per charging session.
Yeah, thank you for what I would say extensive answer. But thank you very much indeed. I think the dynamic pricing is a topic that we will hear a couple of times during today. It's a very important topic, I think, that goes around the European e-mobility. One last question to you. You mentioned the battery swapping. It's also quite often discussed topic. Very short answer, if I can ask you. Do you think that this is the mechanism that will be used in a large scale? Does it have a chance actually to scale up in Europe, or will that be just a minor option to the normal charging, I would say?
So it's definitely an option for the normal charging. Also, you can scale this. At the moment, you have one major issue, and that means most of the players are not buying, let's say, new batteries from, let's say, the Northvolts, the Samsung SDIs, the LG Chems, and so on. So they try to get, let's say, second life batteries. That means, for example, old batteries from EVs which have been tested on the OEM side, or let's say which were only running a few, how to say, a few thousand kilometers, something like that. So from that point of view, there's a demand, but the offer is quite low because you could imagine that the amount of batteries you need is much higher than which are available in the market. And that's the first topic where I think, and I'm sure that the business model will be very attractive if you do not have the grid, for example, in parts of Europe where you have to work with only kilowatt hours. Then you can use, for example, photovoltaic in Spain, where you have a lot of more sun than, for example, in the Nordics in wintertime. And even if you are thinking about not investing, I would say, for a big charger park for the, how you say, the ramp up phase, then you can use even these kind of mobile or movable battery stations or battery combined with the charger stations to scale faster than, I have to install a charger park, and this takes, for example, let's make an example for UK, something like 1.5 years to get ready or get all the acceptances in, also the, how you said it, to prepare everything. So there are some, how you say, differences, and if you think about scaling more faster, then we see that lots of these, let's say, players which want to install something are thinking about, let's move into these combined charging and batteries business, because you can, well, scale much faster, and it's even cheaper because of the battery prices. They have been gone down as well. So I think there's a big market coming up, especially it's getting more, or it's much faster than installing, let's say, 6 or 5 chargers. You can scale even better, I would say. Additionally, from that point of view, I would say that these activities we have to take care. What we have seen, sorry, in the market in the past, that especially the energy loss between a charger and a battery was quite high. So if you had, for example, the battery 10 meters away from the charger, then you had a loss of something like 20%. So the efficiency was on the level of maybe with some charger types on 80%. So that means, well, that's not really efficient because you have a less or a lose of energy of 20%. So what we learned and what we've seen, if you combine the charger in this kind of a, let's say, cube or in a box, it's much easier, and you have a less, let's say, energy lose, which is roughly something like from 100% maybe going down to 92. That means you're losing something like 7 to 8% of your energy, and that's, I would say, acceptable. Everything what's below 90%, well, you have to think about if this business model is the right one, or it works. From if you want to, for example, invest into these kind of activities.
Okay, thank you very much, Wulf. We need to move on.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your presence.
Right.
The battery swapping is actually the mechanism that was introduced by the Chinese, I think, at first. So let's move.
No, not really. Yeah, not really.
Not
the first
really,
one
but
was an entrepreneur from Israel called Shai Agassi, but he was a little bit too early, say it like this, already 13, 14 years ago.
But we know it, Wulf, from now the Chinese brands. I think the most of the people are connecting it with this principle. What I would like to say is that I'd like to make a bridge actually to another speaker.